A little island connected by a bridge from the mainland lies a beautiful beach and a little haven for sea glass. A long lazy weekend turned into a 3-site mudlarking expedition, away from the crowds and with amazing adventures into the past. This is the story of a little piece of heaven on earth and a ticking time bomb. So before we take a trip back into the past, I want to share with you our little piece of heaven. We pulled up on a beautiful seafront and was on the beach within minutes. The sea was rough and the wind was blowing, but never before have I found so much sea glass in the space of half an hour. And I class sea glass as that which is washed up on the shore, well worn, having been tossed around in the sea for many, many years. We went back to the car bitterly cold, but with our pockets full and smiles on our faces, and knowing we'd be back. It was very windy, and given the unseasonal tropical temperatures that we had had only a few days before, we were now plunged back into freezing temperatures, and within a short time of being on the beach we couldn't feel our fingers, and we wished we hadn't been so complacent and had actually brought our winter woolies along. So here is that beautiful beach and some footage from the sea glass hunt. Yeah, that's so far. Wow, look at that. In the shallows of the estuary is the resting place of a ticking time bomb. A time bomb that captured my heart many, many years ago. Closer to the south side of the estuary, just under 2 miles from the shore and around 3 from our home shores, lies the Second World War wreck of the SS Richard Montgomery, which was the first wreck to be designated as dangerous under Section 2 of the Protection of Wrecks Act 1973. The Thames estuary is one of the busiest shipping lanes in Europe. During the Second World War, the US President commissioned the building of ships known as Liberty ships. These were made of modular construction and of English design and took around 50 days to build, enabling them to be mass-produced. By the end of the war, 2,710 Liberty ships had been constructed in 18 different shipyards across the US. They had a 5-year life expectancy and were considered to be somewhat disposable, which, given that many cargo ships were lost to German U-boats, this was sort of the plan. Having said that, there are still 3 in existence today which are now in museums and 2 of which are still considered seaworthy. The Liberty ship, the SS Richard Montgomery, was built by the St. John's Liberty Ship Company in Jacksonville, Florida in 1943. It was named after an Irish soldier and officer who was killed in the American War of Independence. She was 128.8 metres in length, drawing 14,474 tonnes and had 2 oil-fuelled engines. She was capable of 12 knots, drawing a 28-foot draft unloaded, and commanded a crew of 45. She set sail from Philadelphia in the US with the purpose of joining convoy ships delivering ammunition to Allied troops in Cherbourg, France. Arriving in the Thames estuary on the 20th of August 1944, having an uneventful voyage across the Atlantic, they were ordered by the harbour master, Lieutenant Commander Walmsley, to drop anchor and berth at Great Nore Anchorage, which is on the northern edge of Sheerness, Middle Sands. A row ensued between Walmsley and the assistant harbour master, Foley, because bad weather was forecast and the ship, laden with her cargo, drew 31 foot. But the depth at low tide in this area was only 30 foot. Foley foresaw that there was a potential problem with the ship running aground if the wind direction changed. However, he was overruled by Walmsley. During the night, a storm blew up, and just as Foley had predicted, the wind direction did change and the ship drifted onto the sandbank, buckling some of her plates. The hull of Liberty ships are welded instead of riveted, which therefore made them weaker. Despite the other ships in the vicinity sounding their horns and alerting the crew, the ship's officer in charge didn't take any action, nor did he wake the captain, who was sleeping in his bunk. The next morning, when they pulled anchor, a loud bang was heard right across the estuary. She was stuck on the middle sands and had broken her back. An inquest took place pretty much immediately, which was held on board the doomed wreck. Foley, the assistant harbour master, was posted away with immediate effect, which ensured he wasn't present at the inquest. The ship's chief officer wasn't able to offer explanation as to why he failed to wake the captain, and it was concluded that the anchorage that the harbour master had assigned had placed the ship in jeopardy, and the captain was then returned to full duty within a week. The harbour master did not face any punishment. On August the 23rd, 1944, a Rochester-based company was employed to start offloading her cargo using her own on-board machinery. There was consideration given to refloat her, but it would have taken a minimum of 2 weeks for a tide high enough, and she would have had all of her cargo unloaded to stand a chance. They did remove a good half of her cargo, but she couldn't withstand the strain and her back broke, fully exposing the hull, where she filled with water and her fate was sealed. The salvage mission carried on until the 25th of September 1944, whereby it was felt at the time that it was best to let her lie as she was while they came up with another plan. In 1946, off of the south coast, the attempted recovery of a Polish munition ship had proved unsuccessful when it exploded, creating an explosion measuring 4.5 on the Richter scale. It was understood that the ammunition on board this ship was about a quarter of what remains on the Montgomery. This incident further cemented the belief that it was better to leave the Montgomery where she is. The Montgomery is said to hold a remaining cargo, which consists of 286 2,000-pound bombs, 4,439 1,000-pound bombs, 1,925 500-pound bombs, 2,815 fragmentation bombs and bomb clusters. But there's also fuses and such like also remaining on board. Additionally, the copper in the explosives can react with the lead to produce copper azide, which itself is a very sensitive explosive. The Maritime Agency, however, has stated that the fuses have been underwater for many years and the sensitive compounds are soluble in water and therefore is probably not considered such a hazard. In 1973, an exclusion zone was set up around the wreck and she remains cordoned off under the strict 24-hour surveillance by vision and radar. However, a survey on the wreck is completed on a yearly basis now, and it is available on the government website that I'm showing you here. The wreck is said to be broken into 3 parts now, and there is a considered danger that the load will spill out and become unstable. She has a crater around her which has been carved out by tidal flow, and it is hoped that any ammunition spilling out of the wreck would be contained within this crater. In 2003, Southend Corporation commissioned an investigation that concluded that if it went up, the range of damage would cover a 2-mile radius from the wreck, and the blast would be felt up to 8 miles away. It is also anticipated that a 1-metre high wave would hit the shores of Sheppey, breaching its sea defences. New Scientist completed its calculations in 2004 and concluded that it would throw a 2-mile high cloud of water and debris into the air and send a massive wave that not only would it reach Sheppey but Canvey Island, Southend and even London, with the likelihood of it breaching the Thames barrier. They went on to say that the seismic shock would be felt globally, likening it to that of a small atomic bomb, sending a 3-kilometre shockwave inland, smashing windows and throwing debris all over the Thames estuary. As a result of the yearly surveys, it has been agreed that the wreck is becoming increasingly more unstable and that there is a need to do something. There are 5 options, but realistically only 3 are viable. To do nothing, but it's already been established that the wreck is too unstable to do nothing now. To blow it up, but again the dangers and impact of the ship going up would be vast, and it would also produce monumental insurance claims. To remove the ship somehow, if that's at all possible, but the cost has been estimated at around £27 million. Bring each piece of ammunition up one by one. Or the most likely, which is to build a bund over it costing £6 million. It would also involve working in close proximity to the unstable wreck and risking explosion, but so far it is the most favoured solution. Unfortunately, no government department is willing to take on the financial commitment required to secure the safety of the wreck. In 2020, the government arrived at the conclusion that the masts needed to be removed, but now in 2021 they are still there. The reason for their removal is to ensure that they don't crash down through the wreck as the boat corrodes, causing the explosives to detonate. The longer she sits, the more unstable she is becoming, and the more expensive her problem becomes. Other issues that have been highlighted are that the bigger bombs don't have their detonators on them, but the smaller cluster bombs do. And rogue mines in the estuary left over from the Second World War, which are frequently brought up by fishermen in their nets, run the possibility of one breaking loose and drifting into the wreck and causing her to explode. Whatever her plight, I hope that she is laid to rest with compassion, and the bits that can be saved are saved, and placed in a museum on Sheppey so that her story lives on.